In one part of your video, you said that if a thing exists, it has properties. If you exist, you have properties. But maybe you don't have properties, right? Didn't we say there's no intrinsic qualities of an object, that it has relationships, the qualities come out of relationships? So shouldn't it be if you exist, you have relationships? And isn't this what I've been saying, that I believe that you might have no relationship with me, but you might have relationships with something else. So you might not exist for me, but you would still exist for yourself. And that's why I say that to exist is to have a relationship with the other thing that is being said to exist. You coexist. So you exist in frames of reference of something that you interact with, because to exist is to have relationships, and if you don't have those relationships, you can't be said to exist. And if you can sever all relationships between you and another thing, then your existence diverges, and it becomes meaningless for one of you to ask about the existence of the other. And you point out that, well, we have to say something about reality. Yeah, but I am not a nihilistic skeptic. I'm not saying don't say anything about reality. I'm saying talk about human reality, actual human reality. What do we start from? See, I say something about it. I say it consists of our interactions. I say that I draw that from our perceptions, which are evidence of interactions with, something. And we can think about the parts that we can detect. We can think about the interactions we receive, interactions that we turn into information, and that's perception. Interactions we turn into information. Okay, we don't have to say that there are a priori truths in the similar sense. We don't, just to talk about reality doesn't mean we have to say there are a priori truths. We can start from there being a stream of consciousness. And yeah, there's a lot of things that must go into that. But we still start from that point. Maybe we wish we hadn't evolved to this point and we were thinking with vacuum instead of brains. Okay, and then we wouldn't be burdened with all the biases of human animal. But I don't think we would be better off. I think we're better off with the biases and a brain. The mind is embodied. It's a thinking chemical reaction. I'm asking myself not what the true nature of reality is first. I'm asking that later. First, I'm asking, how does this thing work? I want a manual. How does the mind work? So I'm asking, how does the mind work? That's my first question. Not what is the fundamental nature of reality. Okay, how does the mind work? And then knowing that is going to help me figure out about reality, because for one thing, I can figure out, oh yeah, I have dreams and illusions. Those aren't really a part of the reality as I'm trying to understand it. So in the end, the fact for me is that at bottom, I see myself as a perceiving processor, a processor of perceptions. I produce perceptions which I have as input in the form of, which I later use as input in the form of memories, which is also a perception. Now that's good enough. Later, when I'm making a model of what I think those perceptions are all about, okay, then I will still be saying what it seems like from my point of view. Okay. So basically, I deny that I have to say something about reality as such, unqualified. I only have to say something about my reality. Okay, then you say about your reality. I get perceptions from you that I interpret in terms of my other direct perceptions, my own experiences, and we agree. We can agree, and we can agree that we share some truth. So then I have to talk about my intersubjective reality, the reality I'm sharing with these other people. I never escape only talking about the reality of things I've interacted with directly or indirectly this way. None of those are metaphysics. They're all perceptual, so they are not metaphysics. We abstract descriptive principles from our stream of perceptions, like concepts of time, concepts of identity, of continuity, of discreteness for that matter. And that's what they are. They're abstractions taken from the stream of perception. We call them metaphysics, but they're still physics. They're abstractions from, okay, they're not the engine behind that's actually generating the perception. They're built after the perceptions have been received. Let's get that straight. If there's something out there generating them, it's not the thing I'm talking about, my model that's supposed to be like that thing. My model will never be perfectly like that thing. In a sense, it's not trying to actually be like that thing. It's trying to create a predictive model that matches whatever that thing is doing. If that thing was a matrix, we still wouldn't want our model of an apple to be that of a computer program. We'd want it to be these sensible qualities that computer program would be generating. The idea is to encapsulate the perception, not necessarily represent it as itself, as it exists in the real world. Now, we think we do get these descriptions that are apt, because sometimes there's not a lot of candidates for models that can make something behave a certain way. And what we can definitely do is we can try certain models, and those can be cut out. Like the idea of a absolute determined objective universe, that's been proven. I think for a universe like that to exist, you wouldn't have general relativity. General relativity overrides that. But what we don't know is that general relativity won't be overridden. In fact, from a skeptical approach, we suspect that it will be overridden. General relativity will also be shown to be not a complete model. I mean, it's almost, not only should we guess that from the way science works, but from the fact that its general relativity is not unified with quantum mechanics. So some future model should do that. We won't really be done until we find something like that, or a reason that we have to go in some other direction. So this is the final video in this series, and I think the main issue to point out is that I'm saying that the mind is a body. I'm saying that we're starting as humans. We couldn't start from pure reason if we want to. So you have to define pure reason. You have to figure out a way to limit yourself. You know, it would be like if you wanted me to limit myself to first order logic. Okay, fine. Define first order logic. You know, define pure reason. And I have a feeling that it's going to be just like in the classical case. There's no definition of pure reason that takes into account that to get any thinking done, you need a body. You need an embodied mind, an organ, a device of some sort that can do the processing. So there is no pure reason. Because in our attempt to figure out pure reason, we try to take away everything that's, you know, about us as an animal and just be left with thinking. But if we really remove everything, we don't have any thinking. It's like, I'm going to forget everything I can think, and then I'm going to make this sentence. And look, it's an a priori sentence. But you didn't forget language, right? If you want to forget everything, you'd have to forget language. You can't give me an a priori truth out of language and then tell me it's from pure reasoning. Language is the result of billions of years of evolution. Okay, if you really are going to forget everything that is associated with the mind, you're going to find that reason is associated with mind. So you don't have any reason left. So you need a new model where instead of thinking that there's some tricky pure reason, oh wait, no. The reasoning's always going on in a mind. It's always a device. It's always got both mechanical and chemical characteristics. It's got failure modes. It might be buggy and have flaws actually in its design, or flaws that are perversions from its design. I mean, it's going to be a real thing that's doing the processing. When you start looking at philosophy like this, where you have a mind that's a real thing doing processing, suddenly you see it's pointless to hope for pure reason. You have to be happy you have any reason to work with. And instead of longing and pining away for pure reason, you have to just learn about regular reason, which you already know about. And that's the good news. You already know about regular reason. So then you move on to the things that we actually can make progress on. And yes, that includes these so-called metaphysical things. But the first progress there is to realize they're not metaphysics, they're theories, and they can be questioned. And the truly great scientists are exactly those that do question them. That's why Einstein was a great scientist, because he took our concept of time that so many people would have thought was metaphysical, it had to be that way, or things couldn't even work, couldn't even think, and he found out that our intuition was just wrong. It was just wrong. Time can do some weird stuff we didn't know. He changed our concept of time. You know, when the quantum physicists were up against our idea of cause and effect, yeah, this is what it's supposed to do. You know, science went through a lot of these types of things. We thought we were in the center of the solar system, and so on and so forth. We had to give up those assumptions, and it just kept going until finally it got to these things that are embedded in our language. And now science is telling us we have to doubt those. Our concept of time must be doubted. Our concept of cause and effect has to be expanded. That's the message from reality, and that's the message we have to take. And there is no source for any other kind of knowledge. Okay, cheers.